Hello, I'm Steph, aka Literati Medium. Today, I'm going to do the 10 random books tag. I wasn't specifically tagged to do this by anybody, but I saw Dominish Books' video, which I will post in the description box below, and I thought that this was a really fun idea. The original tag was done by Nico's Books Review, and I will also post a link to that video in the description box below. However, I am going to do this a little bit differently, because as you know, my bookshelf here, those are all books that I haven't read, so I can't really tell you about them if they come up. Instead, I'm going to use my Goodreads read shelf, and I have them sorted by date read, and I will pull up the corresponding book on my Goodreads read shelf and tell you about it. So let's get started. All right, the first number that I got is 134. So let's go to the 134th book on my list. The 134th book on my list is The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. So this is actually the only Stephen King book that I have read. I have heard that it is not his most popular work. That being said, I do remember enjoying it. I rated this one like 3 stars, I think. Yeah. I rated this one 3 stars because it was fine. I did like the tie-in of Flag being in this book. That's about all I know about Stephen King's multiverse. Yeah, overall, it was a fine book. It definitely didn't necessarily have me wanting to read more Stephen King, but it didn't put me off reading more Stephen King either. I just haven't gotten around to it. All right, let's see what book number 2 is. 150. That is Time of the Twins, which is Dragonlance Legends Book 1. I also like to call it the Twins Trilogy. I, in high school, loved the Dragonlance books. I don't think I ever finished the core series. I finished the original, 3 books that were originally released, and I read The Time of the Twins. I read that whole trilogy. I read a few of the standalones, but then when they started releasing more core books that I think are about their kids, I vaguely got into the first one, but then didn't read past that. That being said, Raceland is a fascinating character, so I remember really enjoying this trilogy. You know how I am with villains. All right, book number 3, 242. Book number 242 is a book I've already talked about on my channel, and that was Witch by Nancy Holder. So if you are unfamiliar with what I think about this book, you can go and check out my video. I think it'll show up here. This book had a lot of potential, but then the main character does something that I could not get past, and thus killed my enjoyment of the book. I think I rated this one 1 star at the time. And I feel like that was justified for me. I did end up finishing the book, so by my current standards of DNFs are 1 stars. I don't think it holds up. I'd probably rate it 2 stars now. I would say at the time when I was rating this, a 1 star made complete sense. All right, book number 4, and that's book number 73. All right, so next I got Key of Knowledge, which is the second book in the Key trilogy by Nora Roberts. So this trilogy is actually what got me into Nora Roberts as a writer. I do find her trilogies to be pretty formulaic. I really like that this trilogy has a great blend not only of romance, but of fantasy and adventure. They are on a quest, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. Do I find Nora Roberts' writing kind of formulaic? Absolutely. I mean, if you've read one trilogy, in some ways you've read them all. What I do enjoy is that the supernatural aspects of all of her trilogies do change. It's mainly more the character arcs that she tends to stick with. But yeah, this was the trilogy that really got me to read Nora Roberts. All right, book number 5, 116. Book number 116 is Lioness Rampant, which is the 4th book in the Song of the Lioness by Tamora Pierce. Tamora Pierce is such a quintessential YA writer. At the time that I read it, I don't think I read it when it first came out because it's been out for a while and I'm not that old. But it definitely was a newer book when I first read it. And I remember thinking I'd never really read anything like that. It was my first series that was high fantasy, even though it's young adult, it's still high fantasy, that revolved around a strong female protagonist. It was also one of my only, minor spoiler here, so if you haven't read it, use the chapters to jump to the next book. But it was also the only one that I had ever read up to that point where the romantic interest is not who you initially think it's going to be. And that was something completely new. And it did take me a little getting used to because I'm a shipper. So if you get me invested in a ship, I'm on that ship. I will ride that train with you. And then to have it change, I remember being like, wait, what? No. And I still probably have a little bit of that when I read these books, but I think in the end, she does end up with the right person. It's funny in retrospect, thinking about it as an adult versus as a kid. And I think that that was actually a good role model to set that, your first love isn't necessarily going to be your be all end all. And it kind of helped create a little bit more of a realistic standard of how relationships go in life. All right, book number 6. We got 143. The next book on this list is another Nora Roberts book, which is Born in Fire. So this tells you about how formulaic that sometimes her trilogies can be. I don't really remember much about this book. So yeah, I can't really say anything else about this book other than it wasn't very memorable because I can't tell you what this was about. All right, book number 7. 118. 118, we have In the Hand of the Goddess, which is the second song of the Lioness. So I've already talked about this series, so I won't continue to talk about it here. If you have a daughter who's just getting into like the YA age, who likes a touch of romance but not a ton of romance, then I would definitely suggest this series to her. Book number 8, moving right along. Ooh, we got 40. Let's see what 40 is. That's going to be a more recent book, though still probably a few years ago. Although, exciting news, complete sidetrack as I go to book 40. I was so excited because for the first time in years, I actually hit my Goodreads read goal. At the beginning of the year, I set a 24 book goal for this year, which I know for a booktuber is not a lot. But for me, it was a lot at the time, to the idea of reading 2 books in a month. And I will say just from June, when I started book 2, to now, I have read 26 books. So that was pretty exciting for me. That's just a fun little milestone I thought I'd share. All right, so this one is A World Above, a retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk by Cameron Dokey. So I have a weakness for fairy tale retellings. I love them. I do vaguely remember this one because it focuses actually on a female protagonist and that Jack is her brother. And I remember thinking that was a really interesting twist on the story. And this is actually part of a series called Once Upon a Time, which has a bunch of fairy tale retellings, and they're pretty short books. I think most of them are around 200, 250 pages, almost more of novella length. So they're a really quick read, usually pretty enjoyable. I think there was only like 1 or 2 that I was like, meh. All right, book number 9. Book 3. What's the third most recent book that I've read? The third most recent book I've read, I haven't talked about yet because it was going to be in my wrap-up for this month. And that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. It was a good conclusion to the series, I'll say that. I had a few feelings about it in that I wished that there had been a few more stakes. Like, I did cry a few times based on things that were happening, but when it comes to like the core characters, I didn't really feel like there were enough consequences to these really epic things that were going on. The other side of that is the part of me that likes happy endings liked that. So I guess I should do minor spoiler alert there. Sorry, it has a pretty happy ending. Was it the best ending to a series I've ever read? No. Was it satisfying? Yeah, for sure. All right, and the last book on this list that we're going to talk about is 15. Let's go to 15. All right, and that's my good old Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. If you want to know more about what I thought about this book, of course, check out this video here. That's really all I'm going to say about it because you know I love this book. It was my first 5-star book after starting my booktube channel. And exciting news about this book is that it was actually nominated for Book of the Month's Book of the Year. So I think that's really cool. I don't know what the book of the year is going to be. I think it gets announced November 11th, and I'm recording this before November 11th. So I'm excited to see which book is the winner, but I was really happy to see this one on this list because I believe it was the only one male author that made the list, which I'm kind of okay with, I'm not going to lie. And 2, I think he was the only person of color who made it on the list. So like, I kind of want him to win just because of that, and also because the book's really good. So for this tag, and I'm not sure if they've done this tag yet or not, but I'm going to recommend them anyway because I didn't see anything like this on their channels. I'm going to recommend Klaus at The Contradictorian. I'm going to recommend Danny from Danny's Book World. And I'm going to recommend Court from Current Reads with Court. In particular, she's a new booktuber. She's really great. She focuses a lot on disability in fiction, and you should go check out her channel. I will have links to all 3 of those channels down in my description box below, so please go give them a check. And if you're interested in reading any of the books that I've talked about today, I don't think there was any that I hated, but if I did hate it, I won't have an affiliate link. But I will have the affiliate links for those books down below. If you don't know what an affiliate link is, all that means is that if you use that link to buy the book, I may receive a small commission. Check out literatimedium.com for more of my bookish content. And of course, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let's see what stories tomorrow brings.